Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. It's My Sports Advice. This is the podcast for Week 1 DraftKings value picks. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I did this last year, and I'm going to do it every week, where I go through DraftKings for the weekly picks or player free agents, and try to give you what I think the best value picks. And the reason I do this, and the reason this is the way in my strategy, obviously you've got a salary cap. The best players cost the most money, so you can't stack your lineup with the best guys. You just can't do it. It's not possible. So I try to find you value picks, guys that have kind of fell through the cracks a little bit, guys that weren't expected to play, and they're playing key roles because of injury or whatnot, and their salary's pretty low. That can happen on week 1 because they put out these salary bases weeks ago on DraftKings, and they can't change it. Once they put it out there, they can't change those numbers. So injuries happen. Guys that were backups are now starters, and so their prices are backup prices, things of that sort. And by getting these lower dollar value players, you can save money in certain positions, so you can spend more money on the higher edge players. Like I have a lineup that's built for this week. I've got Hopkins and Odell Beckham, 2 top receivers in there at high prices because I'm taking some chances on some other guys. I'm going with Derek Carr this week. He's $7,300, where I think most of the other top-rated quarterbacks are $8,000 or $9,000. There's value in these guys because they're saving you money with the potential to put up, number 1 points, and then you can spend the money elsewhere. Anyway, under the quarterback category, again, I got Carr. He's $7,300. I think he's going to have a big day. It's going to be a shootout in New Orleans. Everybody on that team is going to do well as far as fantasy goes. And, of course, DraftKings will help you out. Stafford, I've got him at $7,200. It's a good price for him. I think that's going to be another shootout. I talked about it in my other podcast. Fitzpatrick, he's only at $6,500. And Cincinnati's got a good defense, but I'm not really worried about that in New York. I think they'll play well. Osweiler, he's only $6,300. The cheapest starting quarterback, is Griffin III at $5,600. Osweiler is $6,300, and I think they're going to try to, they're going to run the ball, a bit. But I think they're going to try to see what he's got. And obviously he's got DeAndre Hopkins, which is a great running back or a great wide receiver. And they've got some really good young rookies. So I think he has the potential to have a big day, and he's really cheap at $6,300. But we'll see. And then I've got Griffin in there at $5,600. I think they might be airing it out. Philadelphia didn't have a very good pass defense last year, and I think they're going to let him throw it down the field. Running backs, good value is, I think, Ryan Matthews is going to have a big day. Cleveland was the worst rushing defense in football last year, and I think he's going to have a big day. He's only at $5,700. That's a good pickup right there. You can kind of if you want to wait till closer to Sunday. Spencer Ware is probably going to have a big day. He's only $4,400. Jamal Charles more than likely is not going to play in Week 1. They're saying that he's behind in rehab. And then on the other side of it, they say that it's going to be Ware and Shakendrick West are going to be sharing carries. But I think Ware is going to get the bulk of those carries. And San Diego is who they're playing, and don't have a very good rush defense. I think Ware is a sneaky pick at $4,400. Chris Ivory, I talked about that in my other podcast. He's only $4,300, and I don't think he's going to have a big rushing day. But I just think that he's going to be their goal line guy. So if they end up getting the ball inside the 5 a couple of times, it'll be him because he's bigger than Yeldon. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. And Chris Ivory's a good puncher, and I think he might sneak in a couple of times if they're able to get into goal line situations. So he might be a value pick at $4,300. And then between the 2 New England running backs, I think they're going to try to establish the run. They got Garoppolo as their quarterback. I don't think that Belichick's going to let him air it out, but you never know with Belichick. And then, so between LeGarrette Blount and White, I think it's hard to say who's going to have the bigger day, but I'm leaning towards James White. He's at $3,600 and Blunt's at $3,700, but I think they're going to try to establish the run. And the reason I like James White is because he catches a lot of passes out of the backfield, but that's a really good price at $3,600. Wide receiver is I've got Michael Floyd. Again, I talked about it in my other podcast. A lot of these guys that are on here correlate with what I think on my other podcasts, which is I'll be doing every week, called What to Watch For, where I talk about guys that are going to do well and guys. So if you guys are on the bench or on the fence about who to play, and you don't want to look up some research or whatever, maybe some of the things I say will sway you in one position or the other. I'm not going to guarantee I'm right, of course, but I think I'm doing all right. And then I got Michael Floyd. I think he's going to have a big day Sunday night. He's only $5,900. Crabtree, he's going to get in on that blowout situation. I think Cooper's going to have a big day, but you would have started him anyway. Crabtree's at $5,500. I think he's going to get in on that blowout action. He might get up to 10 catches and maybe a couple of touchdowns. It all depends on how things work out when they get in the red zone, but I like Crabtree to have a good day. Mohamed Sanu, also talked about him in the other podcast. I think they're going to be really concentrating on covering Julio Jones, and I think it's going to leave him in single coverage. He's a good receiver. He was just outshined by A.J. Green, and of course he'll be outshined by Julio Jones, but he's stepping in where Roddy White was. And Roddy White a couple years ago was pretty good. And Sanu's faster and younger. I think Sanu's going to have a big day on Sunday. Willie Snead, there'll be lots of points to go around in that game. Snead, Cooks, that new kid, Michael Thomas, Colby Fleener, Ingram, who knows? But I like Snead. I've seen him. He played well last year. I've seen a couple preseason games, and he looks good. I think he'll have a big day. I like Kamir Aiken, the wide receiver for Baltimore. They really don't have anybody else to throw it to. And Buffalo's defense is they lost Mario Williams. They lost their best. I can't remember his name right now. The best defensive lineman they have is suspended for 4 games. They're not going to be able to put any pressure on Flacco. And if you can let Flacco stand back there and not put pressure on him, he'll eat you alive. So I like Aiken for Baltimore at $4,700. And then if you want to take a home run shot, $4,100, Travis Benjamin for San Diego. I think he's going to be that Deshaun Jackson guy. He's going to be that guy that he might not do well every week, but there's going to be a couple of weeks here and there where he's going to just get behind the coverage and have some big, big plays. So I like him this week at a real cheap price of $4,100. And then tight ends, Jesse James. These are all real cheap guys. $3,400 for the Jesse James, the tight end for Pittsburgh. I think he's going to have a great day, but he's going to have a decent day, worth that money. That's for sure. McDonald, the tight end for San Francisco, $3,100. Rudolph, tight end for Minnesota. I really like him this week. Sean Hill is the quarterback. He doesn't play that much. When you're in a situation like that, you look for your tight end. He's more like a security blanket. If they're not too sure about their number 1 and 2 reads, they'll go to the tight end. Rudolph's going to benefit from that this week. And at $3,000, he's a steal. Cameron, believe it or not, against Seattle, I think he's going to get within the coverage. Their corners are going to cover Parker and Stills. And I think Cameron might be able to sneak around and find some openings in the defense. I think he might be a good play at $3,000. And then I've also got Martellus Bennett on there. He's only at $2,700. Obviously, they'll be throwing it to Gronk. But Gronk will be drawing all the coverage. And Belichick likes to run that 2 tight end offense. And Bennett's got long arms and looks good in the red zone. So he's a really good value at $2,700. I talked about in the other podcast when it comes to daily leagues, look for the high scoring games. Okay, who's going to be scoring a lot of points? I talked about that in my other podcast. New Orleans and Oakland, Pittsburgh and Washington, Indy and Detroit. I think that's going to be a really high scoring game. Pick players from those games, and try to fit them in the budget and everything. What was the other game I had? There's another game that I had as a high scoring game. I can't remember. Green Bay, Jacksonville. It should be like Tampa Bay and Atlanta. I think it's going to be a high scoring game as well. So look for players like that are going to be playing in these high scoring games. I did that last year, man. I don't know if you remember that Giants New Orleans game. They were the two worst pass defenses in football, and right before noon, I just made a lineup, and I basically played everybody from that game. I played Beckham, and I played Manning, and I played New Orleans guys, and they each threw like 6 touchdown passes. I ended up, just that game, I won like $200 on a $10 bet because I just picked all from that game, and that game was nuts. So look for the high-scoring games. Pick players from there. Check out these value picks. This article is on my website, My Sports Vice. Really appreciate you guys, tuning in. And I'll be doing this every week. And tell your friends about it. We've got to get the word out because I don't have a lot of money to spend on advertising. But, of course, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And good luck with your fantasy teams. And good luck on DraftKings. Maybe I'll see you out there. I'm out.